Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 9th of May of 2023. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. As you know, most of the ex-Soviet countries celebrate today the Victory Day. Ukrainians and the Baltic states don't celebrate this holiday. Today there was a victory parade in Moscow, and Putin, as promised, gave his speech, and during that speech Putin included another target, another goal of the special military operation. Putin said that Ukraine is occupied by the Western countries, and as a result of military coup in 2014, Western countries occupied Ukraine. And another goal, in the last and the new goal of the special military operation, is to deoccupy Ukraine and to force the Western countries to leave Ukraine, including the criminal regime of crime regime of Zelensky. For example, the Chancellor of Germany today gave his own speech, and he also talked a lot about Ukraine, about the victory parade, and he told that no matter the pressure, no matter the victory parade in Moscow, no matter the situation in Ukraine, the European countries and European Union should continue supporting Ukraine in their fightings, and they will do this no matter the price that European Union is going to pay. Another interesting update coming is the European Union. The Ursula von der Leyen moved and visited Kiev. He had meeting with Zelensky. They spoke a lot, and mainly they were speaking about the restrictions that European Union made for the grain, and let's say export restrictions. If you know, as you know, currently the Ukrainians don't have possibilities to sell their grain into Poland. They can't sell the grain into Romania. They can't do this into Hungary and Slovakia. And also the Ukrainians can't sell the grain into Bulgaria. So as you can see, every single country that have a common borders with Ukraine made export restrictions for the grain. And Bulgaria, probably because of the Black Sea, and they have very easy to sell grain using the ports. So probably Ursula von der Leyen and Zelensky were trying to solve this issue. Currently there are no restrictions to sell grain into the rest of European countries, but they need to bypass these countries that we just were talking about. As you know, the grain deal is blocked by Russia. Currently, there are no ships that are selling grain according to this deal. And on the 10th and the 11th of May, there are going to be some negotiation in Turkey, where the parties will try to solve the issues and will try to find a solution how to continue the grain deal. But as you know, the next weekend is going to be very hot for Turkey. There are going to be president elections, and probably the next weekend is going to be very hot for Turkey, and probably the grain deal is not going to be followed anyway. And as you know, for example, today the President Erdogan increased the salaries of the governor officers up to 45%. So probably he understands that this election campaign is going to be very difficult for him. Now let's move to the ground and let's discuss the situation on the front lines. And of course, the most important updates are coming from Bakhmut, as usually. The Minister of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of fierce clashes, the Ukrainians lost 465 soldiers, 16 armored vehicles, including 2 tanks, and they lost 6 artillery systems. So as you can see, the losses are very heavy, but the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation haven't told us that the Russians managed to capture another block. So yes, it's true. Currently, the Ukrainians are still keeping their positions in the citadel, in the south part of Bakhmut, and in the northern part of western part of Bakhmut. And the Russians from their side are trying to connect their forces with Hromova. And currently they're trying to capture the Olympic school, and this is the Olympic school, this area, and the Russians are trying to push in direction along the Irina Levanchevskaya street, along the Tolbukhina street. There are fierce clashes in Chernyakhovskaya street and in Medvedevo street. Some sources were saying that the Russians managed to encircle this area or even capture the Olympic school, but I believe that for now it's a speculation. This territory remains under Ukrainian control. Furthermore, the Ukrainians still have possibilities to move some reserve forces using the Lugovaya street, and because this is a very important part of Bakhmut, and the Ukrainians understand if they lose the northern one, they will lose the citadel and they will lose the battle for Bakhmut. We were expecting that probably maybe the Ukrainians are going to launch some offensive or counter-offensive operation today on the 9th of May, but they still haven't done anything. Probably they're not going to do anything. And for example, the Western countries and the Western experts and the Russian experts are saying that Ukrainians have already prepared beginning to start the counteroffensive operation. Furthermore, today, for example, the Russian sources are saying that there is like intensifying of activity of Western drones, intelligence drones, and Western aircrafts above the Black Sea. There were at least 2 planes in this area, and of course they were trying to get as much as possible information from Crimea, from South Ukraine area, from Zaporozhye. So probably we can expect that within the next 24 or 48 hours some kind of activation of the Ukrainians. And for example, during the day there was a few attempts, let's say in the Kherson area, to cross Dnipro River somewhere in the south of Kherson in this area to make some kind of marine operation. It was just like kind of recon combat. The Russians are saying that they managed to repulse that attack, and furthermore the Russians are saying that as a result of some artillery duels in this area and so on, they managed to shut down another Su-25 airplane and to destroy another warehouse in this area of 124th Territorial Defense Brigade, and as a result of these artillery duels, the Ukrainians lost 30 soldiers, 5 armored vehicles, and 2 artillery systems. Anyway, no changes, but we understand that soon probably they're going to launch. Also, the Russians are saying that Ukrainians have already moved the 9th and 10th military corps to the combat line, and they're also ready to start offensive operation in the Zaporozhye area. The Russians are saying that as a result of clashes, artillery duels in this area, the Ukrainians lost 90 soldiers, 6 armored vehicles, and 1 artillery system. Furthermore, the Russians destroyed 1 ammo depot of 128th Storm Brigade in Sherbaki. Today, Russian military experts provided a lot of analysis, a lot of useful information about possible offensive operation of the Ukrainians, and most of the Russian military experts and the most popular and the most people that we can trust are saying that the main goal of the Ukrainians even is not to, let's say, to destroy Russian army or to cut supply roads between Crimea, between Kherson area and the mainland. The only thing that Ukrainians can do is to, let's say, to maintain their bridgehead and to develop their offensive operation to the south as close as possible to the Azov Sea. So this is the area that Ukrainians are trying or planning to capture as a result of that attack. And what kind of things what this operation can give to the Ukrainians? First of all, if the Ukrainians are able to, let's say, to develop this bridgehead, we understand, and if they will be stopped somewhere in the vicinity of Melitopol, Mariupol, we understand that the Russians will be forced to keep some forces on the south, in Berdyansk, in Melitopol, in Mariupol, and all these forces will be under 24 hours fire control, fire attack. So probably, basically, according to the plan and according to the Russian military experts, the Ukrainians are planning to create some kind of operational encirclement and to push the Russians and to force them to concentrate their forces along the Azov Sea bank, this area. So they're not going to destroy them, they're not going to have close combat, they just want to capture the territory and to fix themselves in this area and to hold this territory as long as possible, to use Russian trenches, to use these towns, and after that to establish fire control over this road on the west and this road on the east. And this is going to be some kind of operational encirclement of entire Russian army in the south of Ukraine. So this is the plan of the Ukrainians according to the Russian military experts, who think that this is exactly what the Ukrainians are going to do. And probably there are very high chances that this is exactly what the Ukrainians are going to do, because we understand that highly unlikely they are able to destroy the entire Russian army and to get the Azov Sea, but to push the Russians back they can do this, and after that to establish operational encirclement and fire control over the roads. And basically the Ukrainians are trying and planning to do the same as they did in Kherson when there were destroyed the Antonov Bridge. There was a very short corridor, very short area where the Russians were located, and using artillery and HIMARS, the Ukrainians were able to control supply support roads, and that forced the Russians to leave Kherson area and to cross Dnipro River. So basically this is the same thing that Ukrainians are going to do, just to short the area and after that to establish fire control and create operational encirclement of entire army. So we'll see whether they're able to do this or not. Another important interesting updates are coming from Kupiansk and Liman front line. There are no changes on the ground. The Russians reported that during the previous 24 hours they continue attacking the Ukrainian positions on the Siversk bridgehead. The Russians attacked as usually positions of 54th Mechanized Brigade, but today the Russians are saying that they attacked them in the town by the name of Veselye, so very far from their natural positions in the vicinity of Bilogorovka. So probably some parts were located in some groups of that brigade were located in this area. The Russians report about destroying of warehouses in this area as usually, and so on. Furthermore, the Russians report about attacking positions of 25th and 80th brigades, 25th and 58th brigades on Kupiansk-Liman area along like Zherebets River, but without any changes on the ground. And also the Russians are saying that as a result of air defense system work, they managed to shut down another Su-27 in the vicinity of Izum, but so very far from the combat line, but anyway also the result. And as a result of those artillery duels, of those like air defense works and so on, the Ukrainians lost 110 soldiers, something around 8 armored vehicles and 4 artillery systems and 1 tank, of course. Furthermore, today the head of Wagner's Prigozhin reported that during the previous 24 hours the Ukrainians made another HIMARS attack on the positions of the Wagners. And the thing is that Prigozhin told us that the Ukrainians attacked the area where Wagners were keeping the prisoners of war, the Ukrainians prisoners of war. But basically he also added that as a result of that attack nobody died, but anyway he noted that this is a very interesting case because the Ukrainians took a decision to attack their own forces. Probably the Ukrainians didn't know who exactly were located in that prison, in that area, but there can be another tragedy on the 9th of May. But for now we see that everything is okay, nobody died as the result of that attack. Furthermore, don't forget that during the previous night the Russians made another massive missile attack all over the territory of Ukraine, and mainly the Russians were concentrating their fire in Zaporozhye, Dnipro and Pavlograd, in this logistic triangle that Ukrainians are using for upcoming greatest counteroffensive operation. For example, the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation today included and added into the report that as a result of that attack they managed to destroy the Ukrainian forces, the military facilities, and let's say like industrial facilities, industrial plants, that military plants that Ukrainians were using for supporting and supplying their entire army. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.